Imagine being kicked out of your dream school because you weren't rich enough, only to be rescued by a billionaire who sees something in you that no one else does. This is the story of Jason, a poor farm boy who was given a chance to rewrite his fate. But the price of success may be higher than he ever imagined. Jason Harper was never meant to be at St. Alden Academy. In fact, he wasn't supposed to be anywhere near its prestigious gates, lined with the grandest oak trees, or walking its polished marble hallways. A small-town farm boy, Jason had always been told he was different from the other students, and not in a good way. The truth was, people like him didn't belong in schools like St. Alden. Yet, by some stroke of fate, Jason found himself sitting in one of the most elite schools in the country, his name on a scholarship granted to him after he aced an entrance exam no one thought he could pass. For a boy whose family had little more than the soil under their feet and a couple of cows to their name, it felt like a dream that Jason was struggling to wake up from. The first few weeks had been a whirlwind. Unfamiliar faces, luxurious surroundings, and the overwhelming realization that he didn't fit in. He had no designer clothes, no rich parents to rub elbows with, and no one to call when he needed help navigating this world of high society. To the other students, Jason was a curiosity, an oddity they couldn't quite place. But it wasn't their attention that unsettled him, it was their disapproval. Jason had tried to ignore the whispers behind his back, the sidelong glances as he walked down the hallways. He had been in enough fights at his old school to know how to handle the bullies. But this was different. These students didn't need to lay a finger on him. They had something far more powerful, a way of looking down on him with their cold, perfect smiles, as if reminding him that he didn't belong. Still, Jason kept his head down. He was determined to make the most of this opportunity, knowing it could be his only shot at escaping the confines of his small town. His dream wasn't about wealth or status. He simply wanted a better life, one where he wasn't constantly reminded of how little he had. But then came the day he was called into the headmaster's office. Jason Harper, Headmaster William Green said in his usual calm, authoritative voice, "We've had a few complaints about you." Jason felt his stomach tighten. He had no idea what this was about, but he had a sinking feeling that it wasn't good. "Some of the students have expressed concerns about your behavior," Headmaster Green continued, glancing down at a piece of paper. "Apparently, you've been struggling to integrate with the other students." Jason's heart raced. Struggling to integrate. He had been trying his best. He was trying to fit in, but every time he felt like he was making progress, something seemed to knock him back. The whispers, the snide comments, they never stopped. "They've also mentioned that you've been behaving out of line. Uncouth, to be more specific." The headmaster's eyes narrowed, not with malice, but with judgment. "Jason, this is an elite institution. We expect a certain standard of behavior." Jason felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to speak up, to explain, but the words caught in his mouth. How could he defend himself when everything they said was true? He wasn't like them. He wasn't cut out for this world. "You've been given a rare opportunity," the headmaster continued. "And while your academic performance is commendable, I'm afraid the social aspects of your presence here are becoming a distraction." Jason's eyes widened as the weight of the words hit him. They were going to expel him. It was clear as day now. They couldn't let someone like him sully the academy's reputation. Before he could respond, the door to the office swung open. Standing there, towering in the doorway, was a man Jason had never seen before, a figure who immediately exuded an air of quiet power. Dressed in a tailored black suit, his salt and pepper hair combed neatly to the side, the man's presence was commanding. But what really stood out was the look in his eyes, sharp, calculating, and yet oddly kind. "Excuse me, Headmaster Green," the man said, his voice smooth but with a certain edge. "Is this the young man you were speaking about?" Headmaster Green straightened in his chair. "Yes, Mr. Kingston. This is Jason Harper. We were just discussing his behavior here at St. Alden." The man, Mr. Kingston, gave Jason a long, thoughtful look, his piercing eyes scanning Jason as if he was evaluating every part of him. Interesting, Mr. Kingston said after a moment. I've heard quite a bit about you, young man. Jason was taken aback. You have? Indeed, Mr. Kingston replied, stepping further into the room. I'm Samuel Kingston. I'm an alumnus of St. Alden, and I have a vested interest in its future. Jason blinked, still not fully understanding what was going on. Why was this man here? What did he want with him? I'm also a man who believes in second chances, Mr. Kingston continued, his gaze never wavering from Jason's face. I can't help but feel that there's more to you than what the others are saying. Perhaps I can offer you a different kind of opportunity. Jason felt a flicker of hope. He didn't know who this man was, but something about his demeanor made Jason feel as though he wasn't just another wealthy alumnus passing through the school. There was something genuine in his words, something that made Jason feel seen. You're being expelled, aren't you? Mr. Kingston asked, his voice low but direct. Jason nodded, unsure of how to respond. There was no way around it. This was the end of the road for him at St. Alden. His hopes and dreams of a better future were slipping away. Well, that's unfortunate, Mr. Kingston said, his tone softening. But perhaps I can offer you something far better than St. Alden ever could. Jason's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Mr. Kingston smiled slightly, a glimmer of something mysterious in his eyes. I think you're a young man with a great deal of potential, and I happen to know someone who could help you unlock that potential. Someone who sees promise where others see failure. Jason's mind raced. Was this some kind of trick? What could someone like Mr. Kingston possibly want with him? A simple farm boy with no family connections, no fortune to his name. You'll come with me, Mr. Kingston said, extending his hand. I'm offering you a chance at something far greater than a scholarship or an elite school. I'm offering you the opportunity to change your life. Jason stood frozen, the weight of his situation pressing down on him. He had nothing to lose. The life he had dreamed of was already slipping through his fingers. So, what could it hurt to take a chance on something? Or someone? He didn't fully understand. With a deep breath, Jason reached out and shook Mr. Kingston's hand. Jason's heart pounded in his chest as he walked alongside Samuel Kingston through the grand halls of St. Alden Academy. It felt surreal, like he was in a dream, a world he had never thought he'd belong to. Everything around him, the plush carpets, the portraits of distinguished alumni lining the walls, and the faint smell of polished wood, seemed like a life he had no place in. But Kingston, with his calm and composed presence, was leading him to something entirely different. As they reached the grand exit, Jason felt a wave of cold air hit his face. The world outside felt vastly different from the one he had just left behind. The gates of St. Alden were now far behind him, and in their place, he had no idea what awaited. Where are we going? Jason asked, his voice betraying a mix of curiosity and caution. Kingston didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gave a subtle smile, a smile that seemed to carry secrets Jason didn't yet understand. Trust me, he said simply. The world outside St. Alden is far more complex than you can imagine. What I'm offering you is a way out, a way forward. Jason frowned. But what's the catch? Why me? The billionaire glanced over at him, his eyes reflecting a depth of knowledge that seemed to extend far beyond the walls of the academy. There's no catch, Kingston replied smoothly. I'm offering you something most people would never get, a chance to unlock your true potential, a chance to see the world through a different lens. I can see the fire in you, Jason, the hunger. You've been underestimated your whole life, haven't you? Jason nodded, feeling the truth in Kingston's words. He had always been the underdog, the one people dismissed. The boy from a small farm town who was never supposed to amount to anything. But how do you know? Jason asked, his voice still filled with skepticism. How can you be so sure that I'm worth your time? Kingston stopped walking and turned to face him, his expression steady. Because I see something in you that the others don't. You've been dealt a tough hand, but you're still standing. You're still fighting. That's something most people in this world wouldn't understand. Jason's throat tightened, He had never heard anyone speak to him like this before. No one had ever believed in him, not in the way Kingston seemed to. His entire life had been spent fighting to be seen, to be heard. And now, someone was offering him something he had only dreamed about. Kingston motioned toward a sleek black car parked at the curb. "Come on," he said. "I'll show you the kind of opportunity I'm talking about." As they drove through the city, the landscape outside the window slowly began to change. The towering skyscrapers, busy streets, and luxury cars felt like they belonged to a completely different world, one that was so far removed from Jason's simple, rural existence that it almost felt like he was in another universe. After a short ride, the car finally came to a stop in front of a modern glass building, its surface gleaming in the late afternoon sun. The sign above the entrance read, "Kingston Enterprises." Is this where you work?" Jason asked, feeling a little out of his depth. "Yes," Kingston answered, glancing at him with a knowing smile. "This is where the magic happens. But I don't expect you to fully understand it yet. What matters is what comes next." They walked into the building, and the cool, air-conditioned atmosphere immediately made Jason feel like he was stepping into another world. The floors were polished, the walls lined with high-end artwork, and everything in sight screamed wealth and success. Jason couldn't help but feel a wave of insecurity flood over him. He had never been in a place like this before. Kingston led him to an elevator, and as the doors closed, Jason felt his nerves tighten again. What was happening? Was he about to be part of something that could change everything? Or was this just another rich man playing with his life for amusement? The elevator dinged, and the doors opened to a sleek office with a breathtaking view of the city below. The room was minimalist in design, clean lines, soft lighting, and an air of quiet sophistication. At the far end of the room was a large desk, behind which sat a woman dressed in a sharp business suit. She was tall, with short dark hair and a sharp, analytical gaze that immediately made Jason feel like she was assessing him. "This is Rachel Cole," Kingston said, motioning toward the woman. "She's my right hand and someone I trust completely. Rachel, this is Jason Harper. He's the young man I mentioned." Rachel stood up and extended her hand to Jason, her expression neutral but not unfriendly. "It's nice to meet you, Jason," she said with a professional smile. "I've heard a lot about you." Jason shook her hand, still unsure of what exactly was happening. The tension in the room was palpable, and for a moment, he felt like an outsider. "You've come a long way, Jason," Kingston said, stepping forward and placing a hand on his shoulder. "And now, you'll learn what it means to take control of your life. The opportunities I'm offering you aren't for everyone, but you have something special, something others don't see." Jason swallowed hard, trying to process everything. "But what do you want from me? Why are you helping me?" Kingston's eyes softened for a moment, and his voice took on a more personal tone. "I'm not offering you charity, Jason. I'm offering you mentorship, guidance. You've got raw talent, something I can help you refine. But it's up to you whether or not you're ready to take the first step." Jason was quiet for a moment, feeling the weight of Kingston's words. This was his chance, his opportunity to escape the life he had been born into. But was he ready for what lay ahead? Was he prepared to walk into a world where everything was different? "Give me a chance," Kingston continued, his voice unwavering. "In return, I'll teach you everything you need to know. I'll show you how to make the world work for you, not the other way around. You have the power to change your life, but it all begins with this moment." Jason stood there, conflicted. He had spent his life trying to survive. But now, Kingston was offering him a path to something far more, a chance to thrive. "Okay," Jason said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that lingered in his chest. "I'll do it. I'll take the chance." Kingston smiled, a look of approval crossing his features. "Good. This is the first decision you've made for yourself, Jason. And trust me, it won't be the last." The weeks that followed were nothing short of transformative for Jason. What he once thought was a dream had become his reality. Under the guidance of Samuel Kingston and the keen eye of Rachel Cole, he was learning skills that most people his age could only dream of. Business strategies, negotiation tactics, and financial concepts were no longer foreign to him. It was as if the world of the rich and powerful had opened its doors, and Jason had stepped right in. But with every new lesson, every new opportunity, came the weight of responsibility. The higher he climbed, the more he realized that success was not just about ambition or intelligence. It was about making choices, sacrifices, and sometimes even letting go of the past. Kingston's influence was everywhere, not just in the business decisions that were being made, but in the way Jason saw the world. He no longer viewed things in black and white. He was learning how to see the gray areas, how to understand the motivations of others, and how to make calculated decisions that could change everything. One evening, after another long day of meetings, Jason sat in Kingston's office, reviewing reports for a potential new investment. The late hour didn't bother him. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had purpose. He was no longer just the farm boy from Oak Ridge. He was someone who could make an impact. "You're doing well," Rachel said, glancing at him as she reviewed her own notes. "Faster than we expected, honestly." Jason looked up, a small smile crossing his face. "It's all thanks to you and Mr. Kingston. I don't know what I'd do without this opportunity." Rachel's expression softened for a moment. "You've earned it, Jason. You're learning faster than we anticipated, and you're not afraid to take risks. That's important in this world." Jason leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. "I'm still adjusting to all of this. It feels like one minute I'm out there in the dirt, and the next, I'm sitting in meetings with billionaires and CEOs. Rachel chuckled softly. "You're not the only one who's felt that way. Everyone starts somewhere. The trick is not forgetting where you came from while moving forward." Jason nodded thoughtfully. "Yeah, I get that. But sometimes it's hard. You know, I miss my old life. The simplicity of it, even if it wasn't easy. Sometimes, I wonder if I made the right choice." Rachel studied him for a moment, her face serious. "You're not the first person to feel that way. But remember, Jason, this world isn't just about the work. It's about the connections you make and the impact you have. You're building something here, something that will last. The price of success is high, but so are the rewards." Jason took a deep breath. He had heard this before, but it felt different coming from Rachel. She wasn't just another business person. She was someone who had clearly seen the highs and lows of this world. And yet, despite the cost, she had thrived. He didn't want to lose himself in the process. But he also knew that the world he had entered wouldn't wait for him to figure it out. The next day, Kingston called him into his office. The tall glass windows provided a breathtaking view of the city below. It was a view that Jason had once only imagined, a view that symbolized everything he was striving for. "Jason, I have an opportunity for you," Kingston said, his voice steady as ever. "It's a big one, a real test of everything we've taught you so far." Jason's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of opportunity?" Kingston's eyes gleamed with the familiar intensity Jason had come to recognize. "A merger. Two companies are at odds, but they both have something the other needs. This deal could change the landscape of the industry. It's risky, but I think you're ready." Jason swallowed, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. "I don't know if I'm ready for something that big. What if I screw it up?" Kingston leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Everyone makes mistakes, Jason. The trick is not letting them define you. You have a chance to make history. You can't hesitate now." The pressure was suffocating. Jason thought back to his old life, the days when his biggest concern was getting up early to work on the farm. Now, he was standing at the threshold of a decision that could change everything. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. "I'll do it," Jason said, his voice firm. "I trust you. I trust Rachel. And I trust that I've learned enough to make this work." Kingston smiled, the approval in his eyes clear. "I knew you had it in you, Jason. Let's make this happen." As Jason prepared for the big meeting, the weight of the world seemed to rest on his shoulders. The lives of so many people, employees, shareholders, customers, were riding on the success of this deal. But for the first time in his life, he didn't feel like an outsider. He felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. The meeting was tense. Jason sat at the table, watching the negotiation unfold. The CEOs of both companies were formidable, but Jason held his ground. He had learned the art of negotiation, the importance of timing, and the value of silence. When the deal was finally struck, the room was filled with a collective exhale. It was done. Jason had done it. As the CEOs shook hands, Kingston leaned over and whispered, "You did well, Jason. You're one step closer to making this your world." Jason stood up, feeling a mix of exhilaration and disbelief. This was the moment that would define his future. He had gone from the boy who had been expelled for being too poor to a key player in one of the biggest business deals in recent memory. But as he looked out over the city skyline once more, Jason realized that the real journey had just begun. This was his new life, a life he had fought for, a life that no one could ever take from him. And in that moment, he knew one thing for sure. His story was far from over. Jason's journey was one of resilience, second chances, and the power of believing in yourself. Sometimes, the right person comes along at the right time to change everything. But at what cost? If you enjoyed this story and want more inspiring tales of unexpected twists and unforgettable journeys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching, and remember, your story could be just beginning.